guys, what's up? It's Sachika. Welcome to my channel where I do about student no longer and lifestyle content. If you're interested in any of that, head on below and subscribe. And yeah, let's get into it. So, okay, I haven't done that in a while. I have another video that's currently in production, which is a lot more positive than this one is gonna be. That one, I'm like 90% through filming it. Editing is not gonna be too much of an issue. It never has been for me, really. But the filming process is taking a really long time because each piece of it is quite time consuming, so I can only really do it on like my free days, and I haven't had a lot of those recently. So and like the thing over there, that's the project, that's part of that video, so I'm gonna leave that to that video. But today we're gonna talk about something a little bit different, a little bit serious. I didn't want the video that I come back to this channel with to be so negative, but like there's just some things that have happened over the last like 10 days that have really, well, they've kind of pissed me off. And it's obviously my friends know all about this. They know what happened. They know what I was dealing with. Honestly, would not have survived without their support in the last 10 days. Would have genuinely lost my mind. But I'm gonna talk about it with you guys just because I started this channel maybe also for a way to deal with my stuff and to talk about being an art student, being an international student, moving from home to this completely new country to pursue a fashion degree. And the process, you guys have been there from the very beginning. And even though in the last year or so, more, in the last like 2 years, I've kind of fallen off of posting, but that's really not because I don't want to. There were so many times that I sat and I filmed a video, but I just never got around to posting it just because I didn't have the time to sit and edit it, or by the time I edited it, like so much time had gone by that it just wasn't relevant anymore. But kind of like, as I'm sure you guys know, life in general has a lot of negative experiences, right? As it makes up life with the positive ones. And I made a video before talking about my internship experience over my placement year, which I never posted because it ended up being quite, like I said, negative in its outlook and its sort of result. But what happened over the last like 10 days is not something like, it's just something that nobody should have to deal with in the workplace, to be completely honest. And it was quite disheartening, actually. Yeah, so feel free, if you guys have at any moment, if you have an opinion to give, if you think what I'm saying is wrong, and whatever, like head down below and let me know. But it's just, yeah, I just thought maybe also to some extent, if you're a recent fashion graduate, I feel like these are things, learning experiences that I'm having that you should also be aware of or like think about as you're going into this. Let's start from the beginning. 2 Thursdays ago, so exactly 2 weeks ago from today, I was out with my friend, and suddenly in the evening, one of my friends called me. And well, actually he texted me first, but he was just like, can I explain this? So he called me because it was kind of long. He was like, I have this job, it's paid, so can you help me? And I had a minute of like, well, I need more details than it's a job and it's paid, right? I can't just agree to something that I don't know what's going on. He sent me a bunch of really weird photos and he was like, this is what they want. And I was suddenly like, huh? And genuinely the pictures that he sent was just a piece of paper wrapped around a woman. And I was like, okay, this is really weird. So he called me and he explained the situation to me, which was that he was hired for this job 2 weeks before the day of him calling me, which was the 6th, 5th, 4th. I want to say the 2nd of October, but whichever was the Thursday that week, 1st or 2nd of October. Yeah, I believe it was the 2nd. And he says, oh, I was hired 2 weeks ago and I made these dresses for them, but they've changed their mind, and the new ones that they want, I can't make. This friend of mine in particular specializes in beading, specializes in a lot of handwork. I've never really seen him work off of a pattern before. And he knows that the shape that they were describing, the shape that they wanted, I could do because there was a lot of that in my final collection. So he was like, can you come help me? And so I was like, look, I'm gonna have to talk to the people because I don't know what's going on before I agree to anything, but I'll come. And I was like, where do you want me to come? And it was really close. So I was like, okay, we're really close, location wise. So we'll come. Me and my friend that I was already with, we went to this place and we sat down for a meeting with these people. To be honest, meeting had really weird vibes from the beginning. I didn't like the way, so I'm very much a vibes kind of person. I rely a lot on my own intuition because it's proven to be right again and again and again. So really, that's the way I move forward with any relationship, whether it's business or personal or whatever. So the vibes with this man were weird from the beginning, and the way he was interacting with his staff, I didn't like. He came off quite rude, and he was fine to me, but that's because he had to hire me, right? He needed my help. But basically the project was, he needed 3 dresses by the following Monday, which was the 6th. And any other sort of situation, I would never have taken this job, to be honest with you, right? But in that moment, to a large extent, I wanted to help the friend who had called me because it mattered to him to keep having this contract and to keep having this money. And in the future, I didn't want it to be that he doesn't get hired for a different job just because I didn't help him out for this one thing. So forget the part that it was paid, right? I turned to my friend and I said, look, I can do it if I have help. I can't do it alone. And he was like, no, I'm gonna be there the whole time. I'm gonna help you do whatever you need me to do. I was like, okay, perfect, right? So I agreed. And like I said, mostly I take on this job to help my friend. And then the guy, the person who hired me, was supposed to send me a bunch of reference images for the kind of dress that he wanted, and those never came through, right? And I was having this minute of like, where's the reference images, right? But off of my memory, I went off and I made a pattern on Friday. And you guys don't know this about me, but my memory is really good. So that kind of helped me in this, in the way of like, I kind of remembered the picture that he wanted, the silhouette that he was looking for, whatever. So I had a call with him on Friday, and while I was making the pattern, and I was like, what do you think about this pattern? Is it okay? And at the time he was like, yeah, it's fine. And then I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna proceed now. And so then, meanwhile, while I'm working on the pattern at home, my friend, the one who contacted me, he is out buying fabric for this new set of dresses. And he buys the fabric and he comes in the evening, by which time my patterns are done. But this is already about 8:30 p.m. And so that was it. Like, that's all I did that day. I made the patterns. Then on Friday, we sat and we cut the fabrics. My friend and I together, we cut the fabric. And as I was cutting, he was fusing and so on. And then once I was done cutting one dress, I put it on the mannequin and I sent the guy photos, and he called me and he saw those photos and he was like, yeah, this all looks great, whatever, go ahead, I approve, right? And I was like, okay, perfect. But also by this moment, I hadn't received a contract. So I asked him, I was like, hey, can you give me a contract? My friend had a contract, right? It's just I didn't. And I read my friend's contract, and there was already a little bit of like iffy wording in said contract. So I was just like, but I still need a contract, because if I don't have a contract, no matter how weird it is, I'm not gonna get paid, right? So he was like, oh, you know, like the guy who hired me was like, oh no, you know, don't worry about it. We don't, you know, I'm gonna pay you no matter what. Just like get these dresses done. Like, don't worry about the contract, da da da. And the thing is, right, because it was such a rush job, and like I said, because I was mostly taking it to help my friend, I was just like, okay, you know, forget it. This is just, I'm clearly not gonna make sense to this man, so just let it be. Come Sunday, we make the dresses. Sunday evening, the friend who was helping me, he had to go somewhere, so I actually called another one of my friends and I said, hey, there is something wrong with one of the dresses, and if I don't have help tonight, I'm not gonna sleep, so could you come and help me? And otherwise I'm not gonna finish. and she was kind enough to come and help me. This is the same friend that was with me on day one of the meeting. Context for this friend is when we were in the meeting, there's something that the guy said that really pissed her off, and it was very insulting and very demeaning, and he called her my assistant, right? On top of the other thing that he said. And of course, this is my friend. We've been friends for 4 years. We graduated together, right? And instantly all three of us at the same time were like, no, she's our classmate, she's my friend. You know, we were just hanging out. Like, assistant, not at all. My friend, we graduated together, we have the same qualifications, whatever, right? But she came to help me on Sunday night, and we were awake till 3 a.m. finishing off these dresses. And then like I said, the delivery date was on Monday. So on Monday morning, I turned to my friend who had stayed the night, obviously, because she's not gonna go home at 3 a.m. And I was like, hey, this is really weird, but I can't carry these 3 dresses on my own. Is it possible for you to come with me just to drop these off? If he asked me to stay, I want you to leave immediately. Don't stay, right? But just help me deliver them because they're too heavy for me to carry on the tube. So we were supposed to go to the Natural History Museum, which is where we went. And we were waiting there for like half an hour. And then suddenly I texted him when I reached there, and he didn't respond. And then we were waiting there for half an hour. And half an hour later, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just call him because he's clearly not responding. So I called him, and he said, oh, sorry, we're not at the museum. We're at this like salon that's like a 10-minute walk. I was like, okay. Went to the salon, show him the dresses. He seems happy at first. And then he's like, let's try them on the model. Okay, cool. Try them on the model. Suddenly, he has me, and I told my friend, the girl with me, I said, hey, I don't want you to stay the day, but I'm waiting for the other friend to show up, and I don't want to be alone with this guy because vibes are bad. So can you stay until he comes, and then you can go? And it was her like 1 day off in like 10 days or something. And I really didn't want her to stay. I was like, please go home. This is not your project. This is not your job, not your responsibility. Go home. And we tried the dress on the model, and this guy made me cut off on each side of each dress on the side seam. He made me cut off 90 centimeters, right? Which is like a massive change. And then not just that, obviously when you don't have a sewing machine, right? So you've got to hand sew. So the 3 of us, like my friend shows up, hand sew the side seams and hand sew everything, right? Sitting on the ground of the salon in front of the toilet, right? It's just an insulting place to be honest. And then tried on the girls again, the models, there were 3 models, tried on them again, and this guy's like, no, I want you to raise the hem. And he made us raise the hem by about 15 centimeters, right? I want to say, no, I'm kidding, it wasn't that much. But like, it was easily at the center front and the center back about like 7 to 8 cm that he wanted it to go up. Now, the thing is, at this point, we're already approaching quite late in the day. Like, it's already like 5 p.m. So we don't have the time. So we're just tacking the hem, right? We don't have the time to sit and, you know, sew the whole hem, obviously. We're just tacking the hem because we're like, as long as it stays in place, it doesn't matter. Suddenly this guy's like, why aren't you hemming it properly? Well, because we don't have the fucking time, right? Then we have to move to the museum, and we're still freaking, you know, pressing and tacking and whatever. And then he has the audacity to come to us and be like, I want you to press it this way, and I want you to do this, and I want you to do that, right? Take my advice. I can do it, I'll show you. Like, he was just so rude. And he was like, you need to carry around a portable sewing machine. What does that even mean? What is a portable sewing machine? If you mean a domestic sewing machine, does he even know how heavy these things are? They're portable, but are they? Like, it was such a ridiculous thing to say. Eventually it hit 7:30, we finished, the girls are dressed, right? We have nothing to do, and we're like, can we go home? We couldn't find him, so we asked one of his staff members. And his staff member was like, oh, you know, we don't know if you're allowed to go home. What do you mean? So then my friend, the one who contacted me, he was like, oh, you know, you two should go home, I'll stay. And the 2 of us were like, we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna leave you alone with this guy. That's ridiculous. So we stayed till 11:30 p.m. till the show was over, when we had nothing to do for 4 hours, and then we left, right? And after that, as we were leaving as well, one of his staff members said something really disrespectful. And so this whole day is just us dealing with someone being rude, someone asking us to do work that we weren't supposed to do, someone like being just downright disrespectful, right? And so the next day, my friend and I dropped a message saying, hey, we weren't expecting any of the extra work you made us do, so we're gonna charge you so much for the alterations. And then this friend was like, he also added a message saying, hey, can you also, like, I made the dresses to your specifications, it's just you completely changed your mind, so can you still pay me because I did do the work? So this guy not only doesn't respond to my friend, he calls me, and I spoke to him, and on the phone call he keeps insulting my friends, which then I have to defend, right? Obviously, because they're my friends and they did the work. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? So I had a minute of like, what is he saying? Yeah, he was just, and then finally he paid me this Monday, so a week after the show, and he didn't pay me any of the extra money we asked for the alterations. So I texted him, I said, hey, to be honest with you, you know, we stayed an extra 13 hours on Monday to do the alterations, to make sure the dresses were up to your specification, and this is how much we charge for alterations on a regular basis. And yeah, I'd really appreciate if you would send that extra money over. I was going to use this money, not even for myself, I was going to use this money to pay my friend who was not supposed to be there. But she stayed to help because we needed the help. And because technically if I'm going to pay her minimum wage in London, 13 hours, even forget the time that she put in on Sunday, for 13 hours, it's about £200. He responded to me and he said, those dresses are not worth what you've already charged me anyway. So I'm not gonna pay you anymore because I don't think you know how this industry works. And I think the job that I gave you was just not, you weren't up to the standard of the job that I gave you. And I think you should reconsider how you do business and whatever. And I was just like, huh? And he was like, oh, you know, these are £100 dresses at max, whereas they've already cost me 430 something pounds. And I was just like, what are you talking about, right? The money that he sent to my friend previously was not for these dresses, right? It was a part of his fee for the other dresses, and it was also the money for materials, right? Like, it had nothing to do with these dresses. These dresses are a completely separate sort of thing. And then, actually, in my message, I have mentioned nothing about the value of the dresses. What I said was we put in an extra 13 hours of work, sitting on the ground, hand sewing for you. So I think we're owed some amount of money for the work we put in, right? But like, he just sent the most infuriating message back, and I knew I wasn't gonna make sense to this man. So I just kind of gave up on it. And then out of the money that I got previously, I then paid my friend. I kind of sent her the money of like how we would split it if we were working together, for the number of hours that she did, etc., etc. But this whole situation is just, it has taught me two things. One, always have a contract, and two, make sure the contract benefits you. Because I read the contract that he had given my friend, and that contract basically said that if my friend didn't deliver the dresses that he was supposed to deliver, he had to, like it didn't say that, but it was kind of implying that he had to send back the money that he had already gotten. Never mind that it was the client's fault, right? And that's just not fair to him, to anybody, to any sort of design practitioner. That's not fair. There was something else that happened which was really bad, but it kind of, the reason it all got compounded because it all happened within the span of a week. So I started an internship as well at a brand in London. It was unpaid. It was it was the same thing I did on my placement year, which was just money for travel, which was like £12 a day, which by the way is illegal in London. But to be honest with you, the job situation was so bad that any experience is experience, to be honest. And I also started at a retail place, so money isn't really why I was doing it. So the first day when I went there, it was fine. Nothing like super bad happened. It's just that it was somebody who was really, really rude the whole day, and I just didn't appreciate that. And also the way they were talking to me, I was just like, you can say all of this to me when I've been here for like 2 weeks, right? It's my first day. Obviously I'm not going to do everything up to your standard because I don't know what your standard is, right? I'm not even aware of how you work. I don't know anybody in this company. I've just walked in. And so I had a minute of like, oh, I don't understand what's going on. But it was still like, it wasn't as bad. And then on Friday, which was my second day, because I took Thursday off. So my first day was Wednesday and then the second day was Friday. I show up, right? And they've got 2 deliveries in the morning. And I was like, okay. So in the very morning at like 8 a.m., they texted saying, hey, instead of coming directly to the studio at 10, could you go to the printing place, the stationery shop at 10, pick up the printouts, and then come to the office by 10:30? I was like, yeah, sure, totally fine. So I was like, yes, that's totally fine, I'll go, and then I'll come. So I reached the printing place by 9:50. I'm early. And I text them being like, I'm here. And they haven't sent the printouts yet. And they keep saying the messages, it's urgent, like do this quickly, da da da. And I was just like, but you haven't sent the printouts yet. So I'm waiting, even the guy in the store is like, are you okay? And I was just like, yeah, but like, this is really weird. Then finally they sent the printouts by 10:10. I was like, okay, cool, get the printouts. Then they were like, send us a picture of the printout so we can approve it. That's fine, send them a picture. By the time they approve it, it's 10:20. Now at this point, it's literally physically impossible for me to reach the studio in 10 minutes, right? Because the studio is, even with bus or like the train, the studio is half an hour away from the printing place. So I was just like, I'm leaving now. So immediately they were like, oh, can you come quickly? Can you take the bus? Can you do this? And I was saying, no matter what I do, it's gonna take me half an hour, right? Even with the bus, it's gonna take me half an hour. But they were just not like thinking about it, I don't know. Maybe they wanted me to fly, I'm not sure. Then I reached the studio by 10:50, literally exactly half an hour after I leave this stationery store. Reached there, there's the whole studio is a huge mess because again, client deliveries, right? So one gets done and gets sent out. There's another one that I need to go drop off to the client. So the client is waiting, right? And I'm arranged an Uber and I didn't even know I was gonna go, right? I just get told, oh, here's the thing, there's an Uber downstairs, you should go. I was like, huh? I literally had a minute of like, I'm going? Okay. And then I grab the thing and I go, right? And I get in the Uber and now I'm in the Uber is driving, right? And it's like at least a 20-minute drive, right? From the studio to the place where I need to give the client the dress. Again, I didn't know anything about this. I didn't know what time was the delivery. I don't know what the client looked like. I was just told she's gonna be waiting outside the place. Just like give it to her. She's in a hurry. You need to reach there quickly, whatever. And I was like, okay, none of this is my fault, but okay. And I get in the Uber and the Uber is going. And I have a good chat with the Uber driver, right? And then the person from the studio calls me 7 times in the span of 15 minutes. I can like put in a screenshot here, 7 times in the span of 15 minutes. And even the Uber drivers are giving like, what is going on? And I was like, I don't know. And every single time I'm just saying, I'm at a red signal, I'm in traffic, it's driving. I don't know what else you want me to say, right? There's nothing more I can say. I'm in the Uber, I can't make it fly. Like the theme of the entire day was I should just fly, to be honest. And so I reached the client, give her the delivery. And the first message I get from them after I say, oh, I've delivered it, here is the sort of picture of proof that it's gotten to the client. The first message I received back is, oh, can you take a bus back? And I was just like, well, yeah, I wasn't expecting for you to pay for my Uber or something. I just chill. And then that day, the trains had delays, so I had to take a bus. It was literally quicker for me to take a bus. So I got on a bus and I go, and I reached the studio, and the first thing I'm asked is, why did it take you so long? And I was like, I was sitting on transportation. It just did. That's just how long it takes. Yeah, and I had a minute of like, what the fuck is going on? And so I just like, so finally then as I reached there, I'm like, oh, I haven't had lunch. Can I go have lunch now? So I go, I eat lunch, I come back. And literally after I come back from lunch, for 15 minutes, I'm being berated by the person in the studio. And she was just like, oh, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, you've got to move faster, you've got to be quicker, you've got to do this. And I was like, it's my second day. You need to calm down. Like, it's giving Taylor Swift song, you need to calm down. And I had a minute of like, never before, even in my worst times, have I been treated like this on my first or second day of work, where it's just like that's so, like, what do you expect from me, right? To read your mind, to fly over the skies of London? Like, I don't know. And then she said something which really pissed me off. So there was a couple of things that she said. She was like, you need to be quick, whatever, which is fine. Then she said, we have a cleaner, but you need to sweep the studio and take the trash out every single day. Which again, I kind of expect as a part of intern duties, but if you have a cleaner, I don't know why you need me to do that. I can't do it better than a cleaner, I promise you. And then number 3, she said something which really pissed me off, which was that basically on Wednesday, on my first day, I finished my work, and then I turned to the person there and I was like, oh, I'm done. It wasn't the same person, that was 2. And I was like, I'm done, like, do you have something else for me to do? And she was like, no, it's already 6 o'clock, like, you should go home, go rest, it's fine, go. I was like, okay, and I leave, right? And on Friday, the second person, so person number 1 from Wednesday, she's not there. She didn't work Fridays, right? So person number 2 was there on Wednesday and she's still there on Friday. And she turns to me and she says, if you need to stay until the designer leaves. You can't leave before her. And I was like, excuse me? What? I didn't say this, but also I had a minute of like, what is she saying? So on Wednesday, when I was leaving, I said bye to everybody, and the designer was still in the studio, and I knocked on her door and I was like, oh, I'm leaving, bye. And I leave. And then on Friday, I'm getting told off for leaving on time. And I had a minute of like, you're not paying me for any of this, right? You're not paying me to be here. I live an hour away, right? So my already 8-hour day is 10 hours now, right? Just because of the travel. And then again, you're not paying me and you need me to stay extra. Like, what the? And so instead of 6 on Friday, I left at 7. And then I got home at 8:30, like 8:15, 8:30. And I was just having this minute of like, what the fuck? Right? Why am I being berated and yelled at for something that's not my fault? Right? If you had client deliveries in the morning, you should have had them prepped and done the previous evening, to be completely honest. Like, a little bit of organization would be nice. And it was your fault I was late. Your fault the printout wasn't there, right? None of this is my fault. And I can't make Ubers fly. The thing with me is, if I'm doing something wrong and you tell me you're doing something wrong, I am immediately happy to accept that I've done something wrong, right? Tell me what I've done wrong, tell me why I've done it wrong, and tell me how to make it right. It's fine. I'm totally perfect, right? However, when it's not my fault, for then you to then blame me is ridiculous. Why should I take that, right? And so I called my mom on the way home, and I was like, Mom, like, what the hell is going on? And I don't understand. And even my mom was like, what the fuck? And so she was like, no, you need to quit, right? This is ridiculous. You can't be staying. If tomorrow the designer decides to stay at 11 at night, you're gonna stay there till 11 at night. That's crazy, right? And I was like, no, this is ridiculous. And so basically, literally the next morning, I sent an email being like, hey, sorry, bye. Which is a new record, I'm not gonna lie. 2 days is crazy. But yeah, it was just ridiculous. And to be honest with you, yeah, I'm just telling these stories because it was really bad. I think to some extent, you should know when to not put up with bad treatment. Because I've done it in placement year. But in placement year, I was beholden to my university. I was beholden to the fact that I'm gonna get diploma in placement studies at the end of it. My student visa would be affected if I quit somewhere. But now I'm on a graduate visa, right? I don't owe anybody anything. So I just had this thing of like, why would I put up with this? And then Friday night, I was so stressed with everything that I woke up at 4 a.m. and I threw up my dinner, right? And I'm just like, if a job is making me sick, not worth it. Just not worth it. It's just not worth it. Sorry, this was that's kind of the end. We're here now. It's over. I'm really glad it's over. I'm still looking for internships, but we're gonna see how it works out in the future. But yeah, I'm really sorry the lighting has been so bad. It's cloudy outside and it's 5:30 p.m. so this is as much natural light as I'm gonna get. But yeah, I'm really sorry that it was such a negative video, but I think this is good information to put out there, to be honest. And I've not accused anybody of anything that they didn't do. The thing about my internship experience was me talking a lot about making accusations. Well, that's not true. My internship experience was mostly positive, actually. But my first internship was kind of negative and it ended badly. And I was talking about it, and that was the majority chunk of that video. But to be honest with you, that situation was a lot. It was spread out over 3 months. It was a lot worse. But also it was more like covert. Like, it wasn't like overtly bad. It wasn't like in your face, which is why it kind of sounded like I was making just random accusations at someone, which I wasn't. Obviously I was speaking from my experience and what I felt, but it just wasn't something that I wanted to put out. After I finished filming it, I had this minute of, I don't think I can put this out. So I didn't. So that's what it is. And the next video is going to be a lot more positive. And so I hope you guys, well, not liked it, but I hope you guys learned something. I hope you guys felt bad for me. No, please don't feel bad for me. This was a combination of my choices, but also it's over now. But yeah, I hope you guys don't go through anything similar in your time in the future or at all. And I just kind of wanted to talk about my experience. So I hope you guys are having a good one, and bye.